Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mudlick Creek Garage. In this video, we're going to free up some floor space in my garage by getting this thing here shipped under the lean-to where it belongs. So to do that, we're going to have to finish this up. Now the initial plan was to replace the reverse neutral high oil temp lights with buttons, with the rings that illuminated with the stock inputs, and buttons to control the headlights, the starting, and the four-wheel drive. But I've decided that doing that, there would be too much going on underneath here and too much potential failure. So for now, at least, I've decided to just run a switch for the four-wheel drive up on the handlebars. So let's get that installed, and then we will get around to putting the rest of the machine together. So the handlebar switch is fully installed. The only complaint I have is I don't like that it's on the bottom. I would rather had it on the top. But if that's the biggest complaint I have with the entire setup, we're in pretty good shape. So let's get these wires run down the handlebar in the stock loom, and then we will get to making a harness underneath here. Next, we're going to test and see what wires go to what. If general wiring convention has taught me anything, black is going to be our ground, brown is probably going to be our light up here, which you can't see, and then blue is probably going to be our output. So let's do brown to positive, black to negative. I'll turn our switch on so that way we'll see the light. There it is. That means blue is going to be our output power. Let's see if it shuts off. Yep. So blue is our output power. Now we know what to make our harness for. All right. So the best case scenario is you have black, blue, and brown wires. But unfortunately, I do not. I swore I did. So I got gray to replace the black. I have actually brown to replace the brown, and I got some pretty purple to replace the blue. There's really no excuse not to have at least 3 different color wires, because wire's extremely cheap on Amazon. You can buy a box of it at Harbor Freight for a little bit of nothing, and I like to use heat shrink butt connectors to connect them together. So let's get a little harness built here. I'm going to leave the leads long in case we need them, well, to be longer. So there, our top 3 are all crimped together. We're gonna get these heat shrunk down, and we'll get some tape over those so that way they don't abrase through. I cut a lot of footage here out because heat shrinking butt connectors is not necessarily the most fun thing in the world. But so we have our black wired in to our ground running to our differential, and we have our blue, or switched hot, running to the differential as well on the hot side. Now, I crimped another gray or black, whichever you prefer to call it, wire. Then I'm going to run to the fan shroud hole to use as my ground. And then don't do what I did and cut your main power wire, because there's a engineered failure point, I guess I'll say. And we'll Run that along right with our factory harness, back to our battery, and we will add a fuse. So let me get this all cleaned up, zip tied up, and we'll be back. I have the wiring down here all tidied up, ran nicely, zip tied. I'm gonna cut the tails off, plugged in. Then the brown wire runs right along the top with the factory wiring harness. And it follows the factory wiring harness all the way down and into the battery box. This is where we're gonna use an inline fuse, and then we're gonna connect this to the battery side of our solenoid. That way we have power all the time, so four-wheel drive can be engaged. All right, everyone, we're back. And this has been about an hour for me, probably about 10 seconds for you, but do not follow general electrical convention. This is wired more like a house, this switch. So your black is actually your hot, your blue is indeed your switch power, and your brown is gonna be your ground. In an automotive sense, brown is normally marker lights, which would make up for the light up here, and black is normally ground. Well, don't do that. So now let me get this all cleaned up again, and then we'll see how it works. So I have the four-wheel drive wiring ran back down through here like initially. I do have to heat shrink these last two connectors, and I did take it out for a shakedown to make sure the wiring setup was correct. So final product, on off switch up here, just powers the diff on off. Back here we have a fused power lead to make sure we don't have any sort of shorting out. So let's get this all wrapped up and we will reinstall the plastics and hook the LED lights up. All right, so the diff is all installed and ready to go. Now let's just get these plastics thrown back on. All right, so we have the front plastics back on the machine. Now we're going to get the front rack all situated and get this ready to ride. So next to install is the front rack. Front rack's fairly easy. Right down and in those holes. Sorry, I missed you there. Then you're gonna put the bolts in on either side. The little holes there. Just snug them up, and then we'll be back to put the front part of the rack on. Next piece to install is going to be your front bumper. How you're going to do that is you're going to remove all the bolts that hold it. Now you're going to put the bumper, make sure your tabs here in the back go under. You just gotta just carefully kind of scooch it up to where it fits. Then you're going to reinstall all your mounting hardware. So the front bumper is all installed. Now we're going to install the headlights. I'm going to start off by prefacing that there's guys out there that make these really nice brackets that go on the back that allow you to bolt them right to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bolt and a washer, but I forgot to buy bolts. I want to get good stainless steel ones. For the sake of this video and reassembling the machine, I'm just going to zip tie them in here using the grill on the one side. This is not permanent, but there's definitely some guys out there that have some slick ways to do this, and follow them, not me. All right, so this is how I did the headlights. So these are an older set that I have painted but I use these weather pack connectors and built a harness so that way they can all unhook from each other and unhook from the bike easily. Don't just hardwire these in, because if you do, it always ends up being a nightmare. And if you have to remove the plastics, you're gonna fight with it. Just take the time, buy a pack of these weather pack connectors. They're like nothing on eBay. And just make it as clean as possible. Let's get them installed. Good enough to hold it in for now. I'll trim these off and we'll call that assembled. So now we will do the wiring on the back side. Like I said, I use these nice weather pack connectors so that way I can just click both of these headlights together. In theory, there, click both these together, and then we can just use heat shrink butt connectors and wire it into our factory harness. You're just gonna have to go through on these guys here and use your multimeter to figure out which ones are right. Let me figure that out and I'll let you guys know. So in the midst of this wiring, I don't want to cut my factory harness. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the stock headlight harness, plug it into my factory harness. I'm gonna clean the wires on one side off. I'm gonna tape them up nice. Come over to the other side. Do the exact same thing. So white and blue get wired together because that's your high beam and your low beam. And then green is your ground. So we'll wire that up to the weather pack connector. So now that the headlights are all wired up, the next and final step to getting this beast all assembled is going to be getting our gas tank placed back on and snipping our seat down. Nothing else under here has really been touched. There's another video coming out where I did a cam swap to the 88 cam. So let's get this gas tank on and finish this project up. So the tank is back on, seats reinstalled, fuel lines, whole 9 yards. So this machine is ready to ride. All I'm gonna do, change the oil, order some one-way valves to redo the carb vent, and we'll be out riding this summer. So thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna do all our other stuff off camera. So next time you see this rig, we'll be out putting it to the test. Thanks for watching Mudlick Creek Garage.